and welcome back to my channel for another video. And today I'm going to be sharing 10 weekly spreads idea for your bullet journal. And I just did all kinds of layouts and some dual pages and also some single pages weekly spread. So I hope if you are searching for some ideas that you will find some in this video. For my supplies today, I will be using a dingbat notebook from the Earth collection, and if you want to get one for yourself, you can use code OA10 to get 10% off any orders from dingbat notebooks. And for the rest of my supplies, I will be using the two fine liners that you just saw here, the Faber Castel one and the Uniball one, as well as my Tombow dual brush markers in these 3 colors. And without further ado, let's jump straight into this first weekly spread. So to start off this video, I have a pretty simple and common layout, I would say, which is to have the middle portion of the page on both sides used for the daily sections, and then columns on either side for additional things. And the way I did this one is to have different boxes, which are 12 by 16 squares with a 1 square tall header in the center that I just colored in with this bluish purple color. I didn't use any ruler or anything. I just went kind of with an imperfect style, just like winging it and not making it look perfect. And then to have on the side, I have a mini calendar on the left side with underneath it a to-do section, which is 8 by 19 squares, and then on the other side I have a event section which is 10 squares wide, and then there's a 3 square tall sections for each day of the week with a note section underneath it, so there's everything to organize your week. For this layout, I just have a single page layout with a box that takes almost the entire page. For me, I just have 1 square left in the right side, so the entire box is 27 squares wide by 40 squares tall, and then I divided it into 3 sections on each sides. The days are each 9 squares wide and 13 squares tall, and then in the middle I joined 2 of the boxes to have a note section, so you have 7 different sections all around it, and then a bigger one for notes. You could also add any other section in that place. And then I just did a line of color that takes a few squares and is 2 squares tall in each corners to have the days of the week written down. Moving on to the other side of this page, I also have a 1-page setup, which is mostly made with only using some colors to delimit the sections. So I used all 3 colors for this one, and I have 2 squares in the middle, which then on each side starts the daily sections, which go all the way through to the sides of the page. And then at the top there's 3 squares that aren't used, which I used to add the week number. So I just wrote week and then the days of that week, and then on top of each line of color I added just in simple cursive the writing of the days. And then the last one, since there's 8 sections, which are all 9 squares tall, I have a task, and this one also has a to-do list layout with using a line of squares. And next we have this layout, which has a lot of things in not a lot of space. It is very compact and has a lot of things. So if you have very busy weeks, this one is perfect for you. I have 24 by 12 boxes, which are centered. And then I just did the header with the coral color, and I separated them down the middle once I did the outlining in black. And I just have 3 different ones, and the last one also has a third section, which is just the right side that is cut down the middle to have a space for each day of the week. Now I'm adding an event section to keep all of your appointments in one place. I did a 2 square wide color line, which is 21 squares tall for each day of the week. So each day is 3 squares tall, and the line of color is just to add the name of the days, and then you have the rest of the box to add any appointments, so you can save some space on the actual daily sections. And then on the left side of the page, I have a mini calendar as well as a note section. And to finish off the page, next to the events, I have an 11 squares wide task section to add all of your to-dos for the week. This next layout is a lot different from any of the previous ones, just because even though this one is on both sides of the page, I divided it, and I have the right side for the actual weekly planning, and then the second half of the page, you could technically use it for other things, but I added a weekly meal plan, so each side has a different focus. and to tie them together, I just added a line of color going through both sides on the first square. And then I started with the right side of this page, and what I did is drawing lines going all across the page, and then in the middle I have a 4 squares wide section, which will be to add the dates and the days of the month. And then I have on one side for the events and the other side for the tasks for each day of the week, and each day is 5 squares tall. And for this left side, I have this table which is 24 squares by 22. The first column is 3 squares wide, and then the 3 next ones, which are for each meal of the day, are 7 squares wide. And then the first line is 1 square tall for the headers, and then each daily sections is 3 squares tall. And then underneath the entire weekly meal plan, I have 2 squares lower a to-do list, which is 12 squares wide, and a note section, which is the same size with 2 squares in between each. The next 2 weekly spreads are both single pages, which can be both done in a matter of a few minutes. So if you want a really quick layout, these 2 are for you. This one, I just started with the header, which I just wrote the week and the dates, and then the whole underneath of the page is basically an entire box, which is 27 squares wide by 35 squares tall. And then inside of this box, I have all 7 days on top of each other, which are all 5 squares tall. And then to make it a little bit more interesting, I just alternated the side in which I added the titles. So I used one color for one side, the other for the other side, and basically on Monday I have the 5 squares wide title on the left side, and then for Tuesday it is on the left side, and it is also 5 squares wide, and that is basically it. I just added some easy lettering, which was just done with a brush pen, and that was all. We are now at our 7th layout, and I'm not sure how well I will be able to explain this one. It is mostly a visual one, but basically I separated the page on in 2 from top and bottom, and I have the upper section, which is 18 squares tall, and then also 18 squares tall at the bottom with a 1 square tall in between them. and then each section is then divided into 3, and they are 9 squares wide. And then I just started with those colorful headers, which they are around 2 squares tall and as wide as the sections. I just left a tiny little bit of space in between them so they don't touch each other, but then I just wrote the titles, and that was it for this spread. But I talked a little bit too much, so we are already on to our next weekly spread. This one is a 2-page layout, and I used this exact layout in my April plan with me, so if you want to see it with a theme, it is up on my Pinterest, and it should be up on my Instagram pretty soon. But basically this one is a pretty simple layout. All you need is a fine liner and some color, and I did the boxes, which all include the names of the days of the week inside of the outline of the boxes, which they are 12 by 15, and I just use cursive lettering to have centered the names, and then I have 2 squares in between each of the boxes in the middle, and one column is starting one from the bottom, and the next column starts from one square from the top, so they alternate, and between each boxes there is 2 squares tall, so you can situate them. And then all I did is adding a mini calendar in the left upper corner, a line of color to add the dates, and that is all, because it is a very simple spread. Next, for our second to last spread, we have a pretty easy one as well, which has a lot of space, and I have 8 by 15 boxes with a header in the middle of the top part of the box, which is 2 squares tall and 4 squares wide. And all the boxes start from the 2 below from the top of the page, and they are 1 squares away from each other, so I can fit technically 6 in a row, but I only did 5 at the top, and then I added the weekend underneath the last 2, and they are slightly lower. There are 2 away from the bottom of the page, and then I did an event section, which is 11 squares wide and then 3 squares tall per days of the week. And then I have a to-do section, which is 12 squares wide, and there's a 2 squares left in the middle. And then all I did was adding a mini calendar, which week it is, and that was basically it. This one was also a really quick one to make. And we are now at our final weekly spread, and for this one I also kept it pretty simple, but this is one of my favorite weekly spreads. I have been using it for many years now. I started by adding a line of color at the top to add which week it is, and then right underneath that, 2 squares lower, I have the event section, which is 6 by 6 squares per day of the week, and then I just have 7 of those in a line, and I just have 3 on the right side and 4 on the left. Sorry, I think I got them confused. I'm not good at left and right, but anyways, right underneath that section I have the daily sections, which from the middle of the page is 18 squares wide, and then for each day of the week it is 9 squares tall, and I just have a 3 square wide little color thing to add which date it is, and then I just wrote in cursive the days of the month, the days of the week next to that. And then because it makes for having columns on each side, I also used those to have a to-do section and a note section, which are both 8 squares wide. And then I have the mini calendar, which is right next to the event section on the left side. And that is basically it for this page. And now that we got to the flip through of all of the pages, we can end this video right here. I hope you enjoyed this video, that you found it helpful, and you were able to get some inspiration to use in your own bullet journal. I'm sorry if this went a little too fast, but I tried my best to fit 10 pages in as little time as possible. If you want to see more, definitely subscribe for more, turn on the post notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload next. Leave a comment and tell me what you think of this video in the comments. I always try my best to respond to everyone. If you want to see more content from me, check out all of my other socials in the description box down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!